It's time for the Steve Cooper Classic. Two teams in great form go head-to-head on Friday night under the lights on Sky Sports. It's Leicester City versus Nottingham Forest in the East Midlands Derby, and this promises to be quite a game. Which way is it going to go? Let me tell you about what I think is going to happen and why, and look into the details and the nitty-gritty of how both these teams are going to face one another. Let's start. So, let's look at the table just before we go into this game, and things are heating up. Leicester, all of a sudden, out of, I think, a fairly indifferent stroke poor start, 2 wins back to back, including an absolutely spectacular win against Southampton. If you haven't seen my post-match analysis, please do check it out on the channel. I was very proud of that one. What a game that was. Last kick of the game, win it 3-2, and all of a sudden, Leicester City, they are 6 points clear of the relegation zone, 8 points clear of 2 of the teams tied at the bottom. All of a sudden, this looks starting to look quite good. But I tell you who else is looking quite good for? Nottingham Forest. I've got to say, they've got to be one of the best overperforming sides this season. To start the season, some of us thought they might get dragged into a relegation battle. Their squad doesn't look too hot. But under their manager, they've had an amazing start. 13 points. They can climb, I think, even into the top 6 or top 5 if they win against us on Friday. So there's a lot to play for here. And something I'll call out already here, which I think is very interesting, is look at Forest's defence. Just 6 goals conceded. That's extremely impressive. Now, they've only scored 8, which I don't think is that much of a surprise given who their manager is. But regardless, that is some mean backline, and that's going to prove quite difficult for us to get through. Leicester, on the other hand, are only one of 2 teams, us and Man City, who've scored in every single game. We have, of course, conceded quite a few goals, including another 2 on a weekend. But you know what? Personally, I prefer a 3-2 over a 1-0. Give me that excitement any day of the week. Maybe that's why I'm one of these sort of new generation of manager stroke tactic aficionados. Let's look at some of Forest's recent form, if you're not too familiar. They played on Monday night. You might have caught that game, and they beat Crystal Palace. Very interesting game, this one. It was pretty even for the most part, but Forest, I think, did have the better chances, and they scored a good goal, maybe a bit of a goalkeeping error. It was a goalkeeping error from Dean Hennessy from Crystal Palace. But Chris Wood scored again, 5 goals for the season, ex-Leicester man, of course. Great form for them. It's pretty amazing, actually, because Forest wanted to sign Eddie Nketiah, who actually ended up going to Crystal Palace. And in the end, the striker they had all along has been performing. Nketiah has not really done the business at Palace, and that gave him a hard-fought win. Interestingly, though, I do think for large parts of that game, Palace were the better team. But I think what it shows you is that Forest are a very hard nut to crack, and they're just very solid. More on that later. Prior to that, they played Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, and they came away 1-1. Now, this game, you can see that Chelsea had quite high XG compared to Forest. But what I'll say is Forest were down to 10 men for, I think, 20 minutes and even had a chance to win it right at the death. Robert Sanchez making an absolutely sensational save to keep it 1-1. So, again, showing their mettle, didn't give up, kept at it, made it tough for Maresca, our old boss, and came away with a point. Impressive result. Prior to that, I think is the most surprising result that they've had so far this season. One, because they lost, but a fairly comfortable loss. Fulham had a lot more possession, not so many shots on target, but came away, had a higher XG. And I think this is a surprise result. Maybe a draw wouldn't have been too much of a surprise. Fulham, you've got to say, have started well themselves. But I think on the form, most people thought that Forest were going to win this match, and they didn't. But as we know, playing Fulham earlier in the season, they are a pretty good team, well coached under Marco Silva. So speaking of coaches at Forest these days, it's not Steve Cooper because he's come to us, but it's Nuno Espirito Santo, Nez. And this is someone we know very well. He, of course, was the manager at Wolves. We had some great ding-dong battles with them. You might remember a mental 4-3 game we had against them where Diego Jota scored a hat-trick. And he got them to Europe at the first time of asking after Wolves got promoted. And I think he even got them back there the following season. In the end, it didn't quite work out from there, but he's proven in the Premier League. He's had stints at Valencia and Spurs as well, which again didn't do so well. But you've got to say, since coming into Forest, he's turned it around. And I think the Forest faithful really like the appointment. And I can understand why. So what's the best way of describing Nuno's style? Rock solid. That's what I've got to say. I think something that he's renowned for is he just makes his teams tough to beat, hard work. Probably wake up in the morning like, oh God, you've got to play a Nuno team. It's not going to be easy for you, and that might seem a bit sort of underrated or not that impressive, but it is impressive. I mean, it's really getting the most out of your team, I think. And I think there's an argument to say that so far this season, Forest are the team that are getting the most out of their players compared to any other team based on what they've got available and what their results have been. So look, I've got to mention who I think has been pivotal to this success, and they've got an amazing dynamic duo in defence at the moment. Murillo, a Brazilian international, he was linked with a move to Chelsea for like 70 million. Admittedly, who isn't? But this guy is the real deal, left-footed as well. Great signing for them. And a great signing they made just in the summer was Nikola Milenkovic, who's coming from Fiorentina. Towering Serbian defender, but he wins everything in the air. Really, really good. Sort of Robert Huth-esque, and that's made a big difference to them, especially on set-piece defences where they've actually become very good. So just to kind of like really point this out, look at this. These are aerial duels 1 per 90. You can see Milinkovic is up there in the top 5, keeping some good company with Van Dijk and Konate. And you can see in terms of aerial duel success rate, Murillo and Milinkovic are in the top 5. So very impressive. And you can see how, in terms of going through the air, there really is no way through. And I think that might be something that plays a factor in our set pieces. I expect to see maybe more Harry Winks grass cutters. That might be the better way to go. But, you know, whilst I bring up their heading statistics, I want to say it's not just that. They're just very good defenders. No nonsense, tough in the tackle. Murillo is actually very good on the ball. And I think having Milenkovic next to him really helps him out. Milenkovic does remind me a little bit about Nemanja Vidic from Manchester United, and Murillo a little bit like Rio Ferdinand. It's a sort of, you know, loose version of that. I think would be a good parallel to make. Also looking at the defensive stats, well, this is both good and bad, depending on when you want to look at it. Forest, you can see here, they've actually got the 5th best defence in the league in terms of expected goals against. So they're really keeping it down. So, you know, it's one of those games that, like, you're just not going to make too many chances. It's not just that they're defending well, but they, you know, they just restrict you. And, you know, that makes it tough to really get anything out of them. Certainly that's what Palace struggled against them. And perhaps a bit scary is the fact that the team who's actually got or should have conceded the most amount of goals in the league is Leicester City. We should have conceded 20 goals, but we've actually only conceded 14. Now, why is that? I think a certain goalkeeper is probably largely responsible for that. I will also say that, look, the way that we play under Cooper is he doesn't mind sitting out a result, which is why we're quite often, you know, actually inviting those goals on, and he's gambling that we're going to get away with it. And so far we have. But I've got to say, I've said this quite a few times, this underlying data is a bit worrying for me, because if it continues, it will catch up with you at some point, especially because our expected goals scored is only 9. So I think we've scored 12. So we've both overperformed the amount of goals we've scored and overperformed how many goals we've got against us. So we are basically getting lucky. Whereas, for example, if you compare this to, say, Fulham, who are in a decent position, well, Fulham actually, they, you know, should have scored more than they have, and they should have conceded less than they have. So this actually shows you that Fulham, not only are they doing well, but they actually should be doing a lot better. And so their underlying data suggests that they're going to be due for a bit of a run of form. So there's a pro tip for you to watch out for. Also want to call out their goalkeeper, Matt Sells. Now, he's someone that last season really looked like he was struggling. In fact, I think goalkeeper has been the position that they were struggling for a while. They had Vladimir, is that his name? I think from Odysseus Vladimir, who was from Benfica, but has ended up going to Newcastle as part of some dodgy PSR deal, which we'll come to in a moment. Not like we can talk. We're obviously victim to PSR ourselves. But yeah, just to say that this season, he's improved massively. Look at this radar chart. So he made some really good saves, I've got to say, in the Palace game. And has been solid for them throughout and has made a big difference. And I guess playing with 2 defenders in front of you to give you confidence, it's unsurprising that their entire back four has improved. And he's looking good. I did just want to compare him, though, to Mads Hermansen, just to sort of say that Sells is a keeper who people are saying is having a good season so far. And yet when you compare him to Mads, it just shows you how our goalkeeper is absolutely ridiculous. I actually saw there was on Ben Foster's podcast, the Foscast this week, he had an entire episode with Mads Hermansen. It was very interesting. And I found it quite interesting, actually. He said, he was nervous when he was a youngster, but he learned how to deal with it. But this season, he thought to himself, last season, I didn't even really make any saves, so no one really knew what I could do in terms of that department. So he was quite looking forward to this season because he knew he would have that potential. And he certainly is, isn't he? I mean, you can basically see he's, as far as I can see, he's the best performing goalkeeper in the league, factually, not just subjectively. Of course, you're going to be made to look good, probably in a team like ours, but point is it really shows you how important he is for us as a team. Right. So we know that Nuno keeps it rock solid, but how do they score? And just like what he did with Wolves, he plays a counter-attack. Mourinho-style manager, you could say. Nuno's from that same sort of school, Conte too. He's just looking to pick you up on the break. So this was the team that they played against Palace. Will it be the same team against us? Well, given they played on Monday and the game's on Friday, I suspect they are going to make some changes. But the two players that I want to really ring, or whoever they decide to pick, will be their wingers. Callum Hudson-Odoi, who at one point was being linked with a huge money move to Bayern Munich, and you've got Anthony Elanga, who's ex-Manchester United. And these two players have low-key been really great signings for Forest. And it's interesting how Forest spent a lot of money on many players, but actually credit, I think, both to Nuno and just in general, they found success with maybe a less fashionable but more effective team. And like I say, I think if I look at this team, are there any superstars? No, there are one or two superstars. I think Murillo is, like I say, he's going to go to a big club. Maybe Elliot Anderson, who we'll come on to in a moment, looks very promising. But in general, they've got solid players, but they're getting so much out of these players. It's extremely impressive. So here's an example of what Nuno's done since he came in after Cooper. And you can see that in terms of possession, they're one of the lowest in terms of possession in the league. But in terms of their direct speed, that is getting the ball back to front, they are the second. So as soon as they get the ball, they're looking to transition on counter. Very similar to the Leicester City title success story, right? We know that that is an effective way. I think these days you can't win the league with it, but you can certainly move up the league doing it. You can see as well that shots from fast breaks. So that's what they're all about. Be solid. The ball's eventually going to break to you. Get it forwards quickly and try and score from it. And here's an example. This is actually them against Liverpool. So it's Liverpool in red and confusingly Forest in sky blue. And here you can see that the ball's won. Actually, it's won by Anderson and he plays it up to Wood. Wood's going to lay it off here. This is to Elanga. And you can see that Odoi's here and they're just going to get on their bike fast. They dash up the pitch. Look at the speed they're getting. Elanga plays it into Hudson-Odoi and Hudson-Odoi tucks it away for 1-0 and they ended up winning this game. And it was a very impressive result. And my understanding is they were actually pretty good. Again, they managed to restrict Liverpool's really good attack with Mo Salah, Diego Jota, Nunez, etc., etc. They couldn't score and they got the goal themselves. So very impressive. Now, speaking of then the player who's one to watch, there's a few people I could pick out here, but I'll admit, purely from watching the Palace game, someone that stood out massively was this guy, Elliot Anderson. Now, he was signed, I think, for big money, something like 30 million in the summer. And a lot of people thought, oh, this is just like a PSR deal that he's come from Newcastle because he hasn't really played for them. How can he be worth so much money? But yet he slotted into the Forest team. He's actually taken Morgan Gibbs-White position. And he looks a real prospect. So here he is early in the game. He picks up the ball and he plays this audacious, is it a cross? Is it a pass? I think it's more of like a long drifted pass, but he plays a really good pace and whip. He goes into Wood and Wood almost scores from it. And I think it's one of the reasons why Wood is scoring so many goals. He's getting really good service, not just from his wingers, but his central attacking midfielder behind him, the 10. Here's another example. They win the ball back here. It goes to Anderson. And again, with their kind of direct threat, he first time puts in the cross. And it's a really great cross. You can see again that Wood stretches and, the keeper makes a good save here. But to be honest with you, they probably should have scored it in the form that Chris Wood was in. You'd expect him to. So watch out for him. I think he's going to be a problem. He's very direct in terms of he'll play the ball quickly and maybe he could catch us when we're out of shape on attacking, given the way that we change shape. So definitely a player to watch out for. I wonder, he could even be someone that breaks through to the England team if he keeps playing the way that he is. Okay, on to the key battle. And this one we're going to do a little bit here, so bear with me. So I think the key battle is going to be Hudson-Odoi versus Abdul Fattah. Yes, I expect Abdul Fattah to start. I think even a blind man could see that he should have been in the lineup a long time ago. And he absolutely cooked Southampton and got us back into the game and won it. It was really down to him. He's surely got to start this time round. How's he going to start? Well, this is what I'm calling. I did say in my post-match analysis, I thought he might drop Mavididi, but I think given that it's at home, given that I think it's against Forest, Steve Cooper will want to sort of shove two fingers up at Marinakis, who was the guy that sacked him. So I think he'll be super motivated. So I think the team will be something like this. I think it will be almost the team. I wouldn't say that we ended with because we made a few subs, but this was like the team after 58 minutes. So Christensen's not going to play. Justin's going to play at left centre back. We're going to start with the 3, although, it's still the 4. And we're going to move forward. You're going to have El Khanous and Buonanotte, but you're going to have, most importantly, Mavididi and Fattah in the team to have the dual threat on both sides. That's what I think we're going to do. But here's where this could get a bit tricky. So the thing is that in this system, last season, we would also have Ricardo Pereira in this team. And I don't think that's going to happen. Although I would say there is an outside chance that he will be. It depends. We'll come to that. So if we don't have Ricardo Pereira, this unfortunately will be a bit of an issue. And to be honest with you, this has been the issue throughout the season when Justin is on the right-hand side but starts at right back. So here we go. I've got my tactical board, and I'm trying to show you that Manson's got the ball, and he'll pass it to Buonanotte. You can see Fatau's already moved up to the right side. Buonanotte's going to play it to Ndidi. Ndidi's going to play it long. Now, let's just say for this example that Forest actually managed to win the ball back. So Milenkovic wins it back, and now they're going to go direct and play it straight to Odoi. And here you see the problem. So Odoi's got the ball, Fatau is attracted, but he's going to play this bounce pass to Moreno, who can dink it over the top. And now, because Fass had to come in and cover, he's going to go to Odoi, he's going to cross it, and here's Wood, and Wood's going to score. Now, look, you might be thinking, what am I smoking here? Is this some kind of like Disneyland? Okay, this might happen, but there's a lot of things that could happen for this sort of situation to occur. A goal like this did happen against us already earlier in the season, and Fulham scored it against us. And what I'm calling you is that the way that we play, because Fatau moves up, it means that Fass has to kind of step across to be the player to give him some insurance. In fact, Justin lost the ball here against Fulham, and this is exactly what happened. It meant the ball could be played over the top. Fass was out of position, and it meant that in this case, it was Alex Iwobi could run in, and he ran in, and he actually didn't pass. He just shot it straight away, and he got it into the back of the net. And what that's showing, so again, if you just go ahead, we start, we see Fatau is there at right back. And now he's going to be moving up as soon as Manson brings the ball. Let's assume this is from a goal kick, and he's up here. And Buonanotte has drifted inside here to pick up the ball. So this is the issue, is you've got these players moving position, which is great when you're attacking. Look, there's 5 men to attack here. But, and here's the thing, is that Fatau is pushed up so far, he's not here at right back. He's got a massive distance to cover. And so when this was James Justin, this was the issue. Or it will be the issue even for Fatau or Ricardo. It doesn't matter who plays in that position. If we set up playing that way, on transition, down our right-hand side, the opponent's left, we will be vulnerable because literally we will have someone that has to cover a huge amount of space to get back to the defensive position. Now, there are ways that we can try and get around it. For example, if we were to lose it, we could try and press players a bit tighter. But you can see in this example that if the ball is played out to Hudson-Odoi, we don't actually have that many people around here to deal with the threat. And so that puts us into trouble. So that's my attempt at trying to explain to you why we're having some of these issues from a system side. So the way that Enzo solved this, because he's a clever guy, is that you have an inverted fullback. So now we're going to look at the same move, but you can see the same move here. Ricardo's it. Now, Ricardo is the inverted fullback. He started there, but he moved into central midfield, and it meant that Fatau could always play at right wing. So now we can see the move continue. And this time around, Ricardo's got it. He's going to go for the ball, trying to find Mavididi. And again, to make it fair, we're going to say that they win it back. So this time Milenkovic is going to win it, and he's going to try and find Hudson-Odoi. But you can see that Ricardo, because he's got less distance to travel, he can move across. And now between him and Fatau, they're going to get Moreno, and we're going to pretend that Ricardo wins it back. And now that he wins it back, he's going to play it to Fatau. And look, all of a sudden, we're on the attack. We're going to make this false 8 run from Buonanotte, who's going to, the false 8, but the sort of inside half channel space here. Fatau's got the ball, and let's say he goes for a shot. And boom. Okay, dreamland situation, it goes in. But look, he did hit the bar against Southampton for a similar attempt. So look, I'm not going to say it's always going to work out like this. I mean, Forest could try something like this, and the inverted fullback could not get the ball, and we could still have a player out of position. But the point here, as you can see, is that when we lose the ball, because of the way that we're set up, Fatau has less distance to cover. And Buonanotte, he's the one that's covering back to central midfield. It doesn't matter if the defender who played the ball is free. He's out of the game at this point in time. So basically, what you're seeing in this example is that by using that kind of system, the inverted fullback, it means you don't have to cover as much distances, which means you can retain your attacking threat while still not be completely and utterly wide. Look, here you can still see we've got 5 men back if they were to break on us. And that's the kind of idea. Now, look, I will say that if you played this particular system, it would actually introduce a slightly different weakness to the team. And that weakness would be that if, for example, Milenkovic wins the ball, well, maybe instead of trying to find the winger, he could try and go to midfield with a ball over the top. And because Ndidi won't be one of the double pivots, between Ricardo and wings, you might not have so much physicality to win the aerial duel, which is true on transition. So, you know, you could have Ndidi there and ask Ndidi to play the inverted position, but then he's not so good at going to right back. He doesn't know it so well. You'll notice that in this team lineup that I've got here, basically the change that I made is I took El Canous out and I put Ndidi in as the box crusher and put Ricardo into the team. So in my opinion, that means that, like, look, from goal kick, if we wanted to go long, you would still have Ndidi to hit. So you've still got that physicality. He can still help you out on set pieces, both offensively and defensively. But in having Ricardo there, it means that you've got less threat on transition when Fatau has it. And I guess what I'm saying is against a team with Forest, like Forest, who've got great wingers and are going to be looking for that, it might be something to look out for. Now, interestingly, Luke from LCFC Down Under actually said that he thought that Ricardo was going to play in this game. I'll have to speak to him soon and find out why he thinks that. But I have heard Steve Cooper mention that Ricardo is going to get minutes, and maybe it was this game that he was thinking of, that he was going to go for it and try to attack. Who knows? Look, I would say we're in a kind of interesting position at the moment, Leicester, where I don't think we do actually know what is our best team. We definitely know what some of our good players are. I think we've definitely learned that Mabadidi and Fatawu should be starting, certainly against teams that we fancy ourselves having a chance against. But the rest of the team, you know, Winks, I think, was amazing when he came on, but I wouldn't be that upset if Skip started ahead of him. To be honest, if indeed he was one of the double pivots, if he was inverting, I think that would be better than him just staying centrally the whole time. So again, going back to this example, the previous example, in this particular case, because you've got Ndidi here, he's not running back there, he's sort of staying centrally, and that's one of the issues there. So you can see, let's just watch this move again, because of the way they're doing it, and Buonanote's moved inside, that Ndidi's looking after this guy. So yeah, this is the issue that I'm talking about. You'll get it. So I'm sure you're going to, because it's taken me quite a long time to make these clips. You can see I use tactical board here. I will definitely be using them again in the future to talk about more of this particular move. But just wanted to give you some example. I would love it in the comments if you think this was useful, you want a bit more explanation, or, you know, how else could we evolve the channel? Would be interested to hear your thoughts. So look, let's go to match predictions then. Both teams are in good form, and it's a derby, and it's on Friday night. This should be a competitive game. I think regardless, I'm expecting this to be a bit of fireworks. I think this could be a spicy one. Forest are hard to break down, but two wingers, and I mean our two wingers, might give us a chance. I'll be honest with you, if we don't start with both the wingers, I can't see us getting through. I think against like a team like that, we have to attack them. Now, I have to say, I've listened to some of the Forest fans, and they think that Cooper could fall into a trap by doing that, and they don't think that they'll get beaten if we try that way. But what I'll say is, one thing I think about playing our two wingers is it will actually pin their team back a bit. And even though they might want to counterattack, they will have to be a bit careful, because if they get counter-pressed, so let's say they try and transition, we win it back on their transition, and now it's a counter transition, our wingers again could expose theirs because those are out of place, and our wingers have shown that they're really good one-on-one. So sometimes when you have that, like, the best form of defending is attacking, because you will pin back the other team. And I think if we go on it from the front foot, that is something we could achieve. Now, I've said here that Cooper won't play Ricardo, so Fatawu getting on transition is my biggest fear. So that's what I'm saying. You might have seen him on some of the fan content channels. There's a guy called Manny, respect to him. What I like about him is he sort of says to me, look, I think that what's happening is Steve Cooper is sort of one step at a time, finding that the solution is just to do exactly what Enzo did last season, but he's having to make one mistake each game before he realizes it. So that's why I can sort of see that this game he'll go for both wingers, going, oh, you know, the both wingers worked, but, you know, the one thing that we were mucking up on is that right-hand side. How could I fix it? And it's like, yes, I could put an inverted right back. I could definitely see that happening. Forest aren't spectacular, but they are the definition of solid. So winning individual duels and taking chances is the name of the game. Might only get 2 shots on target the whole match, right? Equally, they might only have 2 shots on target the whole match. So if we get it, got to hope it falls to the right person, maybe a Vardy or Buonanotte in the form that they're in, and that they can score. But, you know, Buonanotte missed a good chance at the end of the Southampton game. Vardy's missed a few this season, well, even though both of them have 3 goals. So based on all that, I think it'll be an entertaining 1-1 draw. Of course, I'd like better, but like I said, I think with 2 teams in good form, you know, it's going to be narrow. It's going to be tight, and I think both teams will probably get something out of the game. That's my prediction. So that's it. Thanks for watching. Good to see Dancing Fatawu again. Hopefully we see him dancing some more on Friday night. Really hope you enjoyed the game. Let me know what you think about the analysis, and you can join me live on Friday. I'll be doing Match Day Live over at Blue Tinted Glasses, and immediately afterwards we'll have the infamous instant match reaction, where I'll be joined by Luke from LCFC Down Under and Neil from Beyond the 90. So hopefully you can join me then, and I'll see you around. Take care. Bye-bye.